We may not know, we cannot tell what pains he had to bear. Words from that very famous hymn of C.F. Alexander's There is a Green Hill Far Away. Of course, she's referring to Jesus, but I've always thought that that phrase can actually be applicable to everybody. We may not know, we cannot tell what anyone has to bear. And I think that's particularly true of those who do suffer from poor mental health. In the 1980s, as a curate, I was often called out as a duty chaplain to Prestwich Hospital, which always had a certain reputation when I was at school in infants and juniors. I think one of the things that surprised me when I first went along was to discover that there were some women in there who'd been there for decades, and primarily they were admitted because they'd become single mothers back in the 1920s and 30s, and they were still there years later, and so institutionalized that it was almost impossible for them to leave. In those days, back in the 20s, 30s, certainly, when it was known as the Lancashire Asylum, people were classified either as mad or sane. But we do have a much more enlightened attitude now, although we've still got a way to go in our understanding of and acceptance of some forms of mental illness. We now recognise that we can all suffer from poor episodes of mental health, and it's something that can and does afflict all of us. That kind of mental fragility and vulnerability we can often feel. But for some people, this is a deep-rooted and a long-lasting state. So we may not know and we cannot tell if somebody is struggling with their mental health, even if we see them regularly at work, or whether they're friends, or even people that we live with. But we don't need to know somebody's life story in order to show them kindness. There's something very powerful, isn't there, about the kindness of strangers. Desmond Tutu tells that wonderful story of the moment that changed his life, which is when Trevor Huddleston, that white man in a black cassock, doffed his cap to his poor black mother. And just that one simple gesture changed Desmond Tutu's life. It was such a simple gesture, but one that was heavy with deep significance. Last night I had a dream, and I dreamt about Miriam, or Peggy as we used to call her, my mother-in-law. And in my dream I could see that she was very upset. Her house had been burgled, and I didn't realise that at first. Her home had been violated. And when I woke up to say my prayers the following morning, I couldn't get that image out of my mind. But Peggy suffered herself from very poor mental health, no doubt triggered when her beloved mum died suddenly in the street of a brain hemorrhage, and Peggy never really fully recovered from that. At one time people were told to pull themselves together, but Peggy couldn't, and neither can we, without the love and the support and the kindness of others. And I realised that her dream was a prompt. Whether it was my unconscious, my conscience, God, who knows? The day before, we'd been talking about Mental Health Awareness Week, and I realised that this prompt was telling me something, that I needed to say something, to talk about my younger sister, Carol, who had episodes of depression, and how long it took for us to realise the pattern that emerged. She would withdraw or often wouldn't answer the phone for days on end, and we thought, she's busy seeing friends or she's busy at work. Well, she wasn't. She was withdrawing. And yet you couldn't meet a more sociable and gregarious person. But what mattered was reaching out to her, showing her kindness. Kindness can just be understanding, a recognition that, yes, we may not know, we cannot tell how someone is, so why not treat them with kindness anyway? Kindness unlocks our shared humanity. It's our hope and prayer that our experience from this pandemic, and as we emerge from it, that we will enter into a different world where we will become a kinder society, as part of which we will have a greater understanding and a deeper sympathy for those who struggle and suffer from poor mental health.